I said a person who's not into food, to them, they don't want it. Feel a little food in their stomach, they feel stuffed. It's a perception, and the person like a compulsive overeater will be completely the opposite. I got to be full. I got to have this. I got to have that. And then you get into the fear after you do that. So give yourself permission to binge, right? Get into it. Look, don't fight anything. It doesn't work. But as you're doing it, have the perception change. So if I go off course a little bit and I start to eat these oily, gloopy foods, and I start to say, hey, there's 50 ingredients here, and they're all poison. I'm putting a goopy sugar in when I can have natural, wholesome food and really good, healthy stuff, and meditate on that. And meditate. Look, we meditate on the poisons. Why not on pastries? And why not meditate on God's gift? Can you imagine this wasn't man-made. This was made by God. And it's a million times infinitely better than the ingredients they put in those foods. And all the vitamins and nutrients in here, because we're starving, because those other foods have no nutrients. So somebody could be all of this weight and do thousands of calories a day, 5, 6, 10,000 calories a day, and still be starving. Starving. So here's the wholesome natural foods here, and I have an apple I have here. This is God's gift. Meditate, really. What I mean by meditate is during the day, think like that. Think about it and just say, I would love to have the wholesome water, clarity. This alone will save you. How much you'll lose all your weight just drinking water. How many people drink those caffeine drinks with I don't know what they put in it, but it could be 1,200 calories. How about a salad? A salad is 200 calories maybe, but by the time they're done, if you look in the restaurants, it's 1,200 calories of nonsense. So you might as well have, put some fruit in it, and all of a sudden your palate will wake up. I say I'm going to threaten you one time, and I'm going to bring here some broccoli and carrots, right? They're in the refrigerator, so I really didn't want to stay out here, but it's amazing. Amazing. You start to taste these things, and you start to get so wholesome and pure in your mind, body, and spirit. And that's another thing, too. When we're out of the material addiction and making food a higher power, I would come home, close the shades. Well, never mind the food with alcohol and drugs, same thing. That was my best friend. So we're making a poison our best friend when we could enjoy the whole, God's gift. When I'm driving my car and I was eating pizza, whatever the heck I was eating, and I couldn't even see nature around me. It steals these material things, you're spiritually bankrupt. The food is definitely. If people are obsessed by the food, you're not thinking about spiritual things. That's why a lot of Eastern Western philosophies, fasting was a big part of it, right? They fast because when they fast, they have these spiritual experiences because the food isn't bringing them down. It's not all about the food, or it's not about in our lives all about the money. It's just another material thing. I always say, go out and enjoy the world and all of these things, but realize the falseness of it. So enjoy your binging, but realize the falseness. Start changing your perception towards it. Go drink that drink with all those calories and say to yourself, listen, why not try this, right? But when you drink this, some people say, I drink like water all day. No, enjoy it when you sip it. Enjoy the essence of it. This is God's gift, and want that clarity, and your palate starts to wake up, because the problem is we have to educate the palate, they call it. You ever hear that? Educating the palate? Right now, it's all glooped up with these synthetic sugars. They're hundreds of times sweeter than regular sugar, refined sugar. So we don't have a chance. We put that in our body, and the other chemicals they do to manipulate the brain. It's drugs. It's worse, it's white powder, and it's worse than cocaine, heroin, because people can't get off it. A lot of people you run into in these 12-step programs have been on all of those high-powered drugs, and they can't. Their food is just amazing how the hold it has over them. And a lot of times they didn't have to use the spiritual part of the program. They were called like dry drunks. They come in, they put the cork in the bottle. Well, I'm good now. But with the food, it's glorious, and people say I'm grateful for this thing, because it can bring us really close to these 12 steps, which I have here. And I want to reiterate again, this isn't just some cultist 12 steps or AA or OA. This is all the philosophies and religions are in here, in the first 164 pages of this big book. I pick up any page here and it tells me the solution. What did I say in the front when you came in? Letting go. I told you, guys at a meeting, and he tried to, I got it. Look, this is what I want to tell you. I thought of this myself. I can't believe it. I woke up one morning and I thought about this. Look, the guy, it's like a story, a little joke, or whatever you want to call it. But the guy, the king sees a beggar in the street, But the king sees how happy the guy is. Wherever the guy goes, he's really happy. So the king goes over to the guy, the poor guy in the street there, has nothing, no material possession, anything. And so he says to the guy, you got to tell me what the secret is to your happiness. And the guy says, and he started thinking, I really don't know. I'm just happy all the time. So the king got upset, and he said to his guards, he says, look, go over to the guy and put your arms around his neck. And he says, look, and they're going to keep on strangling you until you tell me the secret. I know you know it. So they go to strangle the guy, and the guy goes, the guy's yelling because it was hurting him. He says, let go, let go. He's yelling at the guards. So there you go. So hopefully you get that, because the first person I told to said, what are you talking about? So there you go. He yelled it out. So that's the secret. Let go of all of this nonsense, the addictions, and being in the problem of the food, the diets, the trying to get people to like you, trying to be successful. Because I told you last time, I said, you want to go get a great job, you want to get people to, whatever you want to achieve. When I say to people, they're sponsees, or people call me up and say, what can you do for me? I say, go sit on your couch, meditate and pray. And they said, the first reaction, what are you talking about? How am I going to get myself to go out if I sit on the couch? I said, you get centered and you you really get one with the universe. You'll have all the love, compassion, understanding, and you'll be able to, God or your consciousness will just wake you up, and you want to go out and enjoy the day and go meet people and meet the challenges, because the ego is gone. The self is gone. The reason we don't do things is self-centered fear. What if somebody looks at me the wrong way? I mean, when I was in my addictions, I walk out of the house, suppose a neighbor saw me. I had all of these thoughts. I remember it got so bad that I opened the door to get the mail, and I was going to put my hand out, and I thought maybe somebody would see me. I don't know. This is self-centered fear. When we're out of the self and we have that spiritual awakening towards our addiction, towards our food, towards people, when we change, the world changes. It comes from that whole thing, and it's in the steps here. Step 12 says, having had a spiritual awakening, practicing all our affairs. We could be happy, joyous right now, and free of all of this stuff. And if we're not, that's good too. But it's this process where you go through and you realize it's called the true from the false. But all that says in the what we agnostics and all the modern day things and everything we try, and let me read that. Let me get to that page. If a mere code of, on page 44, if a mere code of morals or a better philosophy of life were sufficient to overcome alcoholism or food addiction, whatever addiction you have, many of us would have recovered long ago. But we found that such codes and philosophies did not save us, no matter how much we tried. We could wish to be moral. We could wish to be philosophically comforted. In fact, we could will these things with all our might, but the needed power wasn't there. Our human resources, as marshaled by the will, were not sufficient. They failed utterly. Anybody doesn't believe me, I've been on 1,000 diets. They all failed. I see 1,000 people on all their diets. They all failed. They gained more weight back. Lack of power. That was our dilemma on page 45. We had to find a power by which we could live. It had to be power greater than ourselves. So the main object of this book is to find a power greater than ourselves, which will solve, in this book it says many places, will solve your problems. And, on page 13 of Bill's story, he said, it will solve all your problems. Common sense will become uncommon sense. I love that also in Bill's story. Common sense. Our intellect figured it all out, how we're going to do stuff. That's common sense. But uncommon sense says just to let it go and just let it go. How can you achieve something by letting it go? But when you totally let go, everything will change in your life. It just will, because the problem is holding on. How the ego, pride is the number one. And how about, not even to mention gluttony, right? That's in there too, for a reason. Okay, and it all has to do with the same thing. Pride, gluttony, whatever it is. If you're gluttonous, you want more people to like you. Gluttonous has to do with everything too, with the food, with money, with success.